Good morning. Good morning. Happy Friday, you guys. Happy Friday. So if those of you who do not know me, my name is Jennifer Luddington, and I'm a high performance mindset coach. And I help people become the generators of their own value centered lives. And I'm really excited to be here today and talk to you because we're talking about something. If you're on Instagram, you haven't seen my title. If you're on Facebook, you have. And today we're talking about something a little different. And I know a lot of you are really going to love this live. We're talking about, and I think it's really important because we're in the middle of a lot of uncertainty on our planet. And our children are exposed to a lot of external input, more so than usual probably, because we're home more, we have more media coming at us, there's more social media, it's really just kind of being bombarded. So today I really wanted to talk about continuing our value kind of series. I really wanted to talk with you about how to create, how to parent, how to love up an autonomous, value-centered child. So it's funny, the reason I was doing this today is because I got a message yesterday from a past client, and she's been following my daughter on Instagram. And my daughter is going to be 14 in a couple weeks here. And Lainey, I call her Lainey the Lion. And it's really beautiful to me that she is so, she voices her values. She voices what matters to her so freely and openly. And it's really inspiring. And this particular past client and now friend said, hey, Jen, how did that happen with her? And I can't take credit for that. I mean, she's her own beautiful human. However, there were things that I think really made a difference in helping her develop and understand and level up her emotional IQ, which I think is is one of the biggest things that we need to impart in our children. Wouldn't you agree? Okay, so before I dive in, I'm actually going to give you 5 steps that I've used that I think are really important that I share with my clients to really raise autonomous, value-centered children, which is the goal of all parents, right? We want them to be happy and aligned and congruent with their values, right? And live into them, correct? Am I right? Yeah, moms out there, dads out there, grandparents, aunts, uncles, this is our biggest responsibility when bringing life onto the planet, in my opinion. So if you're here on Facebook, let me know you're here. Tell me where you're coming from. I love to see where people are interacting from. It's really fun for me. I think that having this beautiful platform where we can all connect in this unified way is really cool. So Instagram, tell me about you. Tell me where you're from. Tell me why you're watching. I would love to know. Let's connect. I love it. So let's dive in a little bit also, and I'll start making this really clear, and I'm trying to go through them, concisely and with the big takeaways. Does that sound good? Okay. Awesome. Okay, so now I do want to preface this by saying I'm not a parenting coach. That's not my expertise. And I'm not trying to pretend like I am. However, I am sharing values and things that really have helped pull me forward in how I've raised my daughter. So hi, Tiffany. Good morning. So I think this is a really important thing. So we're going to go through 5 steps. I've got some notes, so I will be looking at them because I want to make sure I deliver them in a way that you can write them down and maybe even come back to this video and try them and start testing them with your kids, your family, talking to your partner about it if you're raising kids with someone, husband, wife, whoever that is. And if you're a grandparent or you're an aunt and uncle and you have a huge part of children's lives, this is really important for you too. Okay, so you guys ready? Awesome. Okay, so my first step in doing this is when you're trying to create or help children understand or connect with their own intrinsic internal value system without the input of the external world, it's not easy, right? And thinking's hard. In our current society, we've become quite lazy in the fact that we don't tend to think things through or concepts through or strategies through because we can get the information so quickly at our fingertips. And so it's really important that we allow our children some time to think about this and to understand what you're trying to ask of them. Because honestly, when you talk to kids about what are your values, what's really important to you, they're like, Instagram? You know what I mean? So this is going to go, and you're going to have to kind of manage this through the age of your children's. And some of these things are going to be able to be applied to your children. Some might not, but I think that they're really helpful. So step number 1 is making it fun for them. When you come at your kids and you're like, what are your values? That's not, they're not going to get a lot of response for them. So when I was raising Lainey, one of the things that I did with her is we would do treasure hunts. And the way that I made it fun with her is if they don't understand what values mean, if they're unclear about what a value is, it's really fun because a good way to do that, and this is for adults too, and you can do this for yourself also, is to go into your environment, your home, where you spend your time, maybe their playroom, their bedroom, and look around and ask them to bring you 2 or 3 of the things that are in their room that they really love, that they like, that they're connected to. And the same with adults, right? Like if you go into my bedroom, you're going to see lots of books, self-growth books, business books, science books. You're going to also see like a meditation little altar next to my bed. If you go into my room, you're going to see underneath my bed, there's weights, there's a yoga mat, right? So that's going to show up for me and say, wow, health is probably a value to me, right? Knowledge and learning is probably a value to me, and self-reflection is probably a value to me, right? Just based on what's in my surroundings. So the first step is to make it fun for your kids and say, hey, we're going to go on a treasure hunt today. Why don't you bring me the 3 things that are in your room, or 2 things that really, really make you feel good and connected and alive and happy, right? And when they do, instead of making it like, oh, that's great, all of these different things, don't judge it. Right? So after they get connected to that, what makes them feel good? What makes them feel happy? What moves them? What inspires them? What's in their room, in their environment? Just say, that's interesting, awesome. Like, don't try to say, oh, that's bad or good. Just say, wow, how do those things make you feel? Instead of that's not what you value, or trying to actually impart your opinion on them is the first thing that we should not do. So when they bring you something, be like, tell me more about that. How does that make you feel? And invite them into their feelings and connecting with how they're emotionally feeling around that object or thing. And then start making them think about, or maybe at that point you say, how does that make you feel? Or that makes me feel happy, right? Is there another word you can use for happy? And I think one of the things is that we lump our emotions into these big macro words, and we don't have the emotional IQ to say, wow, that's really not makes me happy. That really makes me feel alive. Or that really makes me feel inspired, or that really makes me feel energetic, and start pulling those out of them. It's really important. So the first thing is make it fun. Ask them if they don't know what values are, or don't understand what that concept is. And even if you have teenagers, ask your teenagers, go in your room, what do you surround yourself with? It's going to be a good indicator of what their values are. And then back into that and help them understand what that means and what that looks like. Maybe if they have pictures of their friends all over their room, maybe those intimate connections are really important to them. Help them understand that maybe a value for them is connection, right? So the second step is don't give them feedback, right? Make it neutral. So don't make it positive or negative with whatever they bring to you. If they bring you Legos, then, instead of thinking about, oh, you just want to play, no. Maybe their value with having Legos around them is their need to create. Maybe that's their value, right? So try not to judge. That's step number 2. Try not to judge. Don't impart your filter on your children. Let them be autonomous in how they feel and connect. And when you start imparting those things on them, they think that one way is right or wrong, and that will set them up in a way of seeking your approval. Does that make sense? And when you set your children up for approval seeking, you also set them up for external validation from others, which is a hard thing to break. Am I right? Believe me, I spent years looking for and seeking external approval. And that's what took me off of my value track and put me into this state of depression and anxiety and stress and overwhelm and frustration and eventually eating disorders. And it was awful because I was constantly trying to seek that external. So setting your children up for that by giving them feedback that's positive or negative in how they're feeling is not the right approach, in my opinion. So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is if you're trying to understand and connect them with how to look for their values, how to find their values, ask them, say, instead of talking about this big word values, especially if they're young, ask them, where during your day do you feel like jumping for joy, right? Where during your day do you feel most alive and inspired? Where do you feel the best? Where do you feel the most safe, right? Thanks, Justin. Thanks for popping in. Where do you feel the most safe and secure, right? Where in your day? Is it in the morning? Is it when you're at breakfast with mom and dad? Is it when you're with your friends in the treehouse? Is it when, whatever, when you're reading in your room alone? Where do you feel the best? Where do you maybe feel most connected or inspired or whatever that is, whatever word you can come up with to really expand their emotional IQ, to help them go one layer deeper is super important. And then getting them aware of that and nudging them and saying, okay, what does that mean to you, right? Does that mean that what does that feel like to you? Does it, if, like, for example, I have one in my family, Simone, one of our children, she really is creative. She's so beautifully creative, and she feels so good when she's creating things. And so she knows now that that's part of her value system. In order for her to feel good every day, she needs to live into that, right? Whereas with my daughter Lainey, she's like really all about justice and equality, right? And when she lives into that equality and justice and stands up for people, she's feeling really like herself, her best. She knows that's one of her values, right? And like our oldest Jake, he really values independence and freedom. And when he's able to make his own choices, right, he's able to do that, he feels really super connected and he's inspired and he feels empowered, right? So those are some things that you can really start working through with your kids. And that's an important thing to kind of connect them with. So that's number 3. So we've got number 1, make it fun. Do the room treasure hunt or environment treasure hunt, right? Number 2 is give them freedom to share with you without imparting your positive or negative feedback, right? Always keep it neutral so that they can understand that they're not trying to seek your approval for what matters to them, okay? Number 3, we're just reviewing, is really ask them to look at the areas of their life where they feel the best, they feel the happiest, they feel the most alive, right? So number 4 is another thing you can do with your kids, and this is probably for younger children, but this was really important to me with Lainey. She, it's funny, when I was raising her alone, the best way to connect with her was at night in the dark. And when I turned off the lights and got in bed with her, she would open up to me. And it was a really beautiful time for us because it was hard for her sometimes, I think, to express how she was feeling, in another way. And the thing that I found that worked for her was her drawing or creating a picture of what was important to her. So I used to have her tap into how she was feeling when she was young or what was important to her, and I would ask her to draw me a picture. I would say, what feels good to you? Draw a picture of what makes you feel the happiest. Draw a picture of, if your kids are very into art, this is a great way to pull it out of them too. Draw a picture of what makes you feel most alive. Draw a picture of when you feel the most safe and secure. Draw a picture when you feel the most loved. What does that look like to you? And when you do that with your kids, it opens up a different side of their brain. And some kids, are left brain, right? But we need to start understanding that they get to tap into that, and whatever they feel connected to, whatever is right for them is right for them. And we don't get to impart our feedback on that. And as parents, I think that's really crucial. I found that's crucial with Lainey. Just because sometimes I don't always agree with her stand on things doesn't mean that I tell her that she shouldn't feel that way, right? It means I tell her that I'm proud of her for using her voice, right? I don't get to tell her that that opinion is right or wrong. It's hers, and that's autonomy. And that's where she learns confidence that she can trust herself, right? Instead of looking for external approval to know that what she's doing is right or wrong. She knows it. She understands it. And she's living into it, right? Make sense? Okay, so that's number 4, is asking your children to maybe draw what feels good to them and feels right for them. And then number 5 is, this is a really interesting way to help them connect to what values are. And I really think it goes back again to teaching your children to understand how they feel, right? So this is the great thing for them for you to do. And don't take it personally if they don't tell you it's you. It's really easy to, but you ask your kids, listen, okay, if we're trying to create and understand what makes you feel aligned and happy and on point and on purpose, what are the things around you? So who are the people around you that make you feel the best, right? With your kids, ask them that. When you're around, who are you around that makes you feel the best? Who are your mentors? What teachers? What people in your life make you feel good? What friends make you feel the best, right? What friends make you feel the happiest and the most peaceful and the most calm, right? What people do that to you, and how do they make you feel, and why is that important to you? So I remember one time my daughter had this mentor. She was in this after-school program. This is just an example so that you can kind of relate. But she was in this after-school program, and there was this young woman who really showed a lot of interest in her. And she's a big activist in our community for women's rights and anti-drug movements and things that were really cool. And she would go to this after school program, and she would be in community with other kids that were in it was a leadership program. And when I asked her this, she said that Emily was one of the people that made her feel the best. And I said, why? And she goes, she makes me feel stronger. Okay, so I was like, oh, great. So when you feel strong, how does that make you feel? And she's like I can do anything, like I'm confident, right? So what that told me is that she really values empowerment, right? And she really values strength and courage. And so I started teaching her about that. And that's kind of how we came up with something that we call her as Lainey the Lion, because she's bold and courageous. And I think that that's really fun because kids kind of have like this of themselves, of their future self, or how they want to show up in the world. And so when Lainey's doubting herself or she's having, moments, I'm like, where's Lainey the Lion? And it literally changes her and shifts her. And it's funny because I have my own avatar. People don't know this about me, but I do. And when I'm feeling like I need to tap into what I want, how I want to show up on the world and live into my values, right? I actually tap into my avatar. And my avatar, it's so funny, this is kind of cheesy, but it's me. It's like I go back to my childhood, and whenever I watched She-Ra, Princess of Power, right? Hi, George. Whenever I watched She-Ra, Princess of Power, something happened to me, and I was like, I felt so good, and I felt like I could do anything. I felt so empowered. And so I always wanted her sword when I was a little girl. And I think about that now when I start to doubt myself or start to get pulled backwards instead of forward, it's like, how do I want to show up? And I tap that inner She-Ra, right? That princess warrior. It's like, no, I've got this. And Lainey, I believe, does the same thing with Lainey the Lion. And I think that you can start to impart that with your kids too. It's like, okay, here are these people around them that make them feel the best. Why do they make them feel that way? What things do they have? What emotions do they trigger? And what do they give to you that make you feel that way? And sometimes it's, kindness, patience, calmness, serenity, whatever that is that people make you feel is usually what you value. And so that's how you kind of connect it for your kids, which I think is super powerful, right? So, and with yourself, like, guys, this is not just for your kids. If you're still working on learning what your intrinsic values are without the external, world telling you what they should be, this is a great exercise for you to do too, right? And just tapping into that, tuning into that is a really important thing. And then if your life and your vision for your life is not aligned with those intrinsic values that you discover, you have to pivot and shift. Because if you continue to, what I call value endurance, is discerning between values that actually lead you to your vision or the values that actually derail you from your vision. And if you're enduring things that are derailing you from your values, it's going to cause anxiety, fear, depression, anxiety, all the things that I think the world is suffering through right now. But when you come back to your values and you say, okay, I'm filtering my vision through my values, then you're in alignment. Things get easy. Things feel good. Things you get into your flow. You stop feeling like you're swimming upstream, right? And that you can actually create, become the person that you want to be and live your best life. So this Friday, I invite you to not only look at these 5 steps for your children, but look at them for yourself. How are you really showing up? Are you really in touch with your deep intrinsic value system? Or are you seeking approval right now? Are you trying to keep up with the expectations that our culture has put on us? I've been there, believe me, for too long, and it just about took my life. Like I said, I developed massive eating disorders to numb myself from the pain, right? And the frustration and the anxiety for chasing something that wasn't even of me, wasn't even my truth. So there's been lots of opportunities in my life now that I've actually passed. There's been things that have come at me that after I filtered them through my value system weren't right for me. Maybe they would have made me a lot of money. Maybe they would have done a lot of things for me, right? Maybe they would have done things that I don't really value, right? And you have to use that discernment. That's the beauty of being human. That's the human experience. You get to decide. You get to choose. And it's a great thing to do is filter them through your values. So anyhow, it's a little nugget for you this morning. This is a little longer than usual, but I thought it was really important. So the next thing that I want you guys to understand is, this is something that I do with my programs. It's really value-centered goal setting. I call it goal setting so people get it, but really it's value-centered vision setting. And it's powerful. It's a powerful tool. If you want to download a little free PDF that will help you kind of understand my value system bullseye and how to discover those values, I will pop it in the comments and on Facebook. And if you want that and you're here on Instagram listening, send me a message and I'll send it over to you. The next thing I want to share with you guys is, listen, these lives are fun for me to do. I really connect with them. I love hearing from you guys. I love watching your comments. So, I find it super fun to know where you're coming from, where you're watching from, why you're here. So if you want to comment, I would really appreciate it so that I understand that it's connecting. And if you find this valuable, if you found this is helpful for you, if you have parents or grandparents or people in your life that are influencing our children and you think this would support them, please share it. Be generous. I would love to see you share it. It's a powerful tool to use, and it's a toolkit you can have that you can use in your own self-reflection, with your partner, and with your kids, even with your friends, right? It's a great way to understand where people are coming from. Okay, guys, well, happy Friday. Thanks for being here. Again, I appreciate all of you, and have a beautiful weekend. I'll see you on Monday.